G'day and welcome back to the York Syngenta Learning Centre where we're showcasing Reflex. It is now the end of July. We are about 13 weeks after sowing and about 12 weeks after emergence for this site. And we've had 150, 160 mil of rainfall to date. As you can see, the lupins are flowering and a good time to see some of the treatment effects. And today we'll run you through some of the individual treatments. So this is the untreated control plot. There's a good background level of wild radish in this site. Some of the wild radish is now flowering. We also spread canola prior to sowing of this site, and there is some capeweed through here as well. So this is our untreated here, and then we go into our first treatment. This is Reflex at 1 litre IBS in lupins. So here we have the untreated. You can see heavy density of capeweed, canola and the odd radish. And if we switch into 1 litre of IBS Reflex, you can see we've drastically reduced numbers. There's still a few surviving capeweeds. We have a suppression claim on capeweed, but taking out a large number of plants, certainly between the row. So we have the untreated plot as the first plot, then into the 1 litre of Reflex IBS, then stepping up again to 1.5 litres Reflex IBS, which is the top label rate. And you can see significant improvement at the 1 litre rate compared to untreated, and then a step up again into the 1.5, where we've just reduced numbers a little bit more than the 1 litre. So we're here in the 1.5 litre rate plot. We've significantly reduced numbers of wild radish and canola and capeweed, and you can see where we have got some survivors. Certainly here there's a canola plant that's in the row that has survived and looking okay, compared to a wild radish plant that's just germinated on the shoulder of the furrow. And if you have a close look here, you can see that it's really bunched up. We've significantly reduced its biomass and got some chlorosis of the leaves. And that's a telltale symptom that this plant's had some reflex by its bunching habit and that discoloration of the leaf growth. So here we've got 1 litre of Reflex IBS together with 1.5 litres of Rustler or Propizamide. So we're getting residual grass and broadleaf weed control together. We're 12 weeks after sowing, and you can see we've taken out a significant portion of the brassica weeds and also reduced capeweed numbers in this treatment. So this essentially would be the base treatment, allowing you to come back later on with a post-emergent spray of Brodal or Brodal Metribuzin to take out any of the survivors that are remaining here. But the key here is that you've removed a large proportion of the competition early on with that residual benefit of Reflex. So we're here in the Reflex 1 litre rate plot with Propizamide, and you can see there is still some survivors. The survivors are severely stunted. You can see this radish plant is all bunched up and quite compressed, and also this capeweed plant is a lot smaller than the untreated plants we saw in the control plot, and also has that chlorosis of the leaf. So Reflex is working on these plants still, 12 weeks after sowing, and doing a good job at suppressing growth. So this plot is Simazine Metribuzin, so 1 kilo of Simazine and 300 grams of Metribuzin, which is close to grower standard. And you can see, surviving radish and canola is now flowering and growing fairly normally, next to 1.5 litres of Reflex IBS. And you can see there's still some surviving plants. If we have a close look, you can see here we still have some survivors in the Reflex plot, but they're significantly reduced in the terms of their biomass. That's the older leaf there, but any newer leaves are certainly bunched up. And here we have a plant, again, that's reduced in biomass, flowering, but significantly less than a plant if we compare it to the Simazine Metribuzin plot that is now growing away fairly nicely and even starting to pot up. So here we have 1 litre of Reflex plus 1 kilo of Simazine IBS alongside 1.5 litres of Reflex plus Simazine. And again, you can see the reduction in plant numbers, certainly in wild radish, compared to the grower standard Simazine Metribuzin. If we now shift into substituting the Simazine and looking at Reflex plus Metribuzin, so we've got 1 litre of Reflex, 300 of Metribuzin IBS, alongside of 1.5 litres of Reflex plus 300 of Metribuzin. And again, significant reduction in wild radish numbers compared to the first plot of simazine metribuzin. So here we have 3 treatments that have had IBS applications followed up with a post-emergent spray. So we have a kilo of simazine and 300 of metribuzin. It's then received a post-emergent spray of Brodal metribuzin, and that was 200 mils of Brodal and 80 of metribuzin at about 6 to 8 leaf of the lupin crop. And then we shift from that treatment into Reflex plus simazine as the IBS. So a litre of Reflex and a kilo of simazine. This also then had the Brodal metribuzin post-emergent spray, and you can see that was significantly reduced the amount of radish in canola compared to the grower standard simazine metribuzin. We then go into the next treatment, which is Reflex plus metribuzin. So a litre of Reflex, 300 of metribuzin IBS, and then this also had the post-em spray of Brodal metribuzin. So the 3 alternatives: grower standard simazine metribuzin, Reflex simazine, or Reflex metribuzin IBS, all of these having the same post-emergent spray. So thanks very much for your time today. It's great to be able to show you Reflex, and we will see you shortly.